Two were employees. The third was a customer whose 12-year-old daughter was waiting outside the bank when the robbery occurred. There were still three guys. Had three guns, two hustlers, and they had the customer.
Has there been anything wild that you and I got into?
Well, I mean, I was working the night that kid got shot back down there in the WMA. Where
You were with the city then. Huh?
yeah, I was with the city. Where EMS refused to get in there, so you, Alicia, Don, and they had to.
Yeah.
Or how about Austin Gerber and that whole incident? Graber down there in the WMA.
No.
Why does it all happen?
That's where it all happened.
Just a spot.
Yeah, I mean, there's been several. I'm sure they'll all come back and be kind of eased on. But I mean, if you want to, we could talk about the missing little girl from this past week. That was a good one. That's got a great story.
That was a win.
That was a win.
Yeah.
So, you know, kind of roll through just advice that you would want to give. This is talking about how you kind of started, and then the main group of people we're looking at would be like people interested in law enforcement or some kind of public service. What would you recommend to them as far as how to do, what to do, how to get there? Yeah, don't do it.
That's what I said the answer was going to be.
It's like, you know, people ask me all the time, and it's like, well, go be a fireman. Don't be police.
Hey,
Nobody likes police, and everybody likes firemen.
you get to cuddle with your buddies, nap with your buddies, work out with your buddies, cook with your buddies.
And a fireman is the only person I know that can save your house from fire damage by destroying it with water damage, and they still tell you thank you.
It's true. Even if rain can do their job.
Or 9 times out of 10, I'm the first one doing their job. Or, you know, it's just going to be a sheriff's deputy because we get to wrestle with alligators anyway. Did I tell you about that?
I got back in the truck.
Yesterday I caught an alligator.
I got back in the truck after pictures, and I hear we've got the alligator contained. We'll go be releasing them in the water.
What?
I just taste them laughing.
Yeah. So these two ladies from Louisiana were driving on 134. They had coming into town. And there's a little alligator. Couldn't have been more than 3 foot long. 2.5 foot long.
Yeah.
Little bitty thing. Right?
Fast.
Yes. Very fast.
Very fast.
Sitting in the middle of the highway. So they kind of like scooted him and then started pouring water on him, right? Trying to keep him. And came after him. They call us.
Well, I'd come after you too if I was just hanging out and you start throwing water on me.
Yeah. And so we show up, and Chris goes and gets this big limb out of the woods, shoving him off in the ditch. It's like, well, we got to do something. I will call the game warden. And I was like, leave it alone. Natural selection. If it's in the highway and gets run over, that's his problem. But no, I went and dumped one of my little carry cases with my little plastic totes. I keep all my shit in the back. We didn't think it through real quick. So I just run up there and set it down over the top of it. And we got all kind of standing there. I was like, okay, now what? So we got the lid, kind of shimmied it up underneath him, flipped him over, locked the lid down. I was like, all right. We get him down to that little pond just south of the bridge. And I flip it over on top of the lid, unlock everything. And I'm going to flip it over, and he keeps turning around and hitting the wall towards me. And I go to the other side, and he keeps spinning. So I finally just reached up there and just kicked the bucket open. Just kicked it. And here he come up the bank at Chris and I. He finally turned around and ran back off in the water. But I got a lot of videos, a lot of pictures and stuff.
Those little ones, man, I've had one. So my trick was you untake their mouth and you're holding their mouth shut. And then you kind of use the tail to shove them out and release them that way. I had one, he was about 3.5 feet. He came about that close from as I'm pushing with the tail, coming around and snatching my finger to go with him. I was like, ah! Well, yeah, because we were standing there and I looked at Chris. I was like, well,
Because the most I've ever dealt with is snakes. And I was like, well, if you'll just take that big stick and hold his head down, I'll ease up there and catch him by the back of the neck. And Chris goes, okay, then what are you going to do after that? I don't know, I ain't got that far. So you still got to drive him down the pond. I said, yeah, I'll just hold him down over my patrol bag in the passenger seat and drive down to the river. It was a fun one. I had to show you those pictures. I got him in a clear container. And he's staring in my soul the entire drive.
Oh, the entire way. Those things, man, they get downright ornery.
I find it funny. Rob looked at me Saturday. He said, "Oh, there's not many in the river. There's not a whole lot of alligators in the river." And here it is, Sunday afternoon, and there's an alligator right in the middle of it.
Rob was not wrong, because was it in the river?
Close. Where else would he have come from, Jack?
They're outside of the river.
They're just going other places now. So he did not lie to you. They were not in the
I don't know how that one got up there that one day.
the same way.
Like, that's a decent ways for that little dude to. Well, I guess if you go out from that neighborhood.
Yeah, because the river kind of makes a dog leg back.
I just thought that was the funniest.
It's probably half a mile or less to the river.
Yeah, from where we were, every bit of, I would call it a little less than a half. It's probably a quarter mile.
No, it's on the park.
Oh, well, where we were on the highway, it was a quarter mile.
Mm-hmm.
Just you come off the bridge.
Well, then, and Harold Nick's old place down there.
Yeah.
I mean, those sloughs go
Yeah.
right down to the base of that hill.
Oh, yeah. And then, I mean, it wasn't, just past the Conoco station, or whatever that old gas station was, we were maybe 200 yards from that pond. And I just like, yeah, he's from that pond right there, or either the river. He will find his way back. Just leave him alone. They're like, well, we don't want him to get hit. Darwinism. He's dumb enough to be out in the middle of the highway and get run over. It is what it is.
Hey, bro, we'll get smarter alligators. Okay, maybe you should have put them back in. Get some dumber alligators going.
I don't know. Man.
I don't know if there's such a thing as a dumb alligator.
Yeah, they all kind of got them beady eyes. Make you wonder.
Reptilian.
Quick.
Yeah.
Scary. You seen that video of that kayaker just easing down the river and that alligator just blows off the bank and just T-bones him?
No.
Hell yeah, he was just paddling down the river, right, having a grand old time. This alligator, he's got a GoPro on, and he looks right, and just as he looks back left, this alligator just busts off the bank, straight into the water. The guy's like 20, 30 foot from the bank. Alligator just broadsides him. Knocks the kayak over, knocks him into the water. Dude screaming along and climbs up on the bank. That scared the shit out of me too.
Yeah. Wow, dude.
Had it in for him.
Oh yeah. But what was that? I don't remember where it was, but there was that article that they did where the three buddies were kayaking down a river somewhere.
I got stuck in the tree.
Was it in South America or was it in Africa? I don't remember, but this big saltwater crocodile came off the bank, and as they're paddling, like, bumped them, knocked one off into the water, so they gathered him back up and grouped up close together. And while they were grouped up, that big crocodile snatched one of them off the kayaks. Just snatched, so they got up in a big dead tree in the middle of the river. And that crocodile sat there for 3 days, something like that, on the bank and watched them, waiting on them. They knew they had to come down. And when the boats finally came to get them, that alligator or crocodile was attacking the boats. I don't fool around.
So he did get a kayaker.
Yeah, he did get it. All they found was his helmet and part of his life vest floating down.
I mean, not to sound callous or anything, but if you're riding a kayak where there's crocodiles, I mean, alligators are one thing. Alligators are realistically pretty docile, all things considered. Crocodiles, they got all them teeth and no toothbrush. If you're gonna go out on a kayak where there's crocodiles,
4 inches of separation from you in the water.
and crocodiles, like, they kill a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they're aggressive.
they kill a lot of stuff. You know, it's I don't know.
I find it. Have you seen those articles where they're starting to get a lot of hybrids, the alligators and crocodiles in Florida mating? A lot of saltwater crocodiles are coming in, and they're mating in the Florida Everglades, and they're
Sweet.
They're mixing. They have the size and the aggressiveness of the saltwater crocodile, but they have the body structure of an American alligator. And so when us two, you're like, okay, that's an alligator, just kind of give it its face.
Florida, man.
And it's
That's the reason I don't live in Florida.
no.
Florida's a great place.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess it's that time. Great B-roll footage. You see, I jumped up the font so I could actually read it. Yeah, what was it? Saturday, our final little video Saturday. I had the size 12 font. Hold it way up here to my face.
How'd it go?
How did what go?
The interview.
Oh, it's good. It was great. So, other than YouTube takes 3 days to upload, but Ryan Rodriguez was the only one that kind of felt nervous interviewing, but he still gave a great interview. Like he was.
Y'all do them individually or
Yeah.
collectively?
Well, so we did individually, kind of sitting in this setup, but everybody was in here. We had people coming and going, buying cigars, hanging out, smoking over there. Very informal. When we all gathered up, I think with Doug's, we were all just hanging out, talking, carrying on. Doug's been a rep for I don't know how many years, but he's a sailor.
Likes talking.
Oh yeah.
He's good at it. All right. I guess we can do this. All right. Today on the Guardians Lounge, we are interviewing a good friend of ours, Jack. Harris and I have been knowing Jack, hell, I've been here 6 years.
Yeah,
You've been here since I've been here. We have an honor of interviewing Jack today. He's a well-known public servant for our community, a former Texas Game Warden, a firearms and tactics instructor, the chief of police, and a good personal friend. We want to say welcome and thank you for interviewing with us today.
Hey, my pleasure. You make me sound like a rock star, so I'll come back anytime.
So here on the channel, as you know, we like to let the guest pick the cigar that we're going to smoke, and then we just kind of review the cigar and kind of give it our placement. So what stick did you pick today?
I did a little reverse psychology on you. I asked you what was good. Well, kind of feeling a heavier cigar today, and we kind of danced around it. And I was looking at the label of the Magic Toast, and you got excited. So that's what we're smoking today.
The Alec Bradley Magic Toast is a really good stick. I've smoked it many times. And that recommendation actually came from Harris. It would have been 2. You've had this in your shop since the very beginning.
Yeah, it's been one that I've carried for a while.
I love it.
It's a good one. I recommend it a lot of times if somebody's getting into the darker cigars, because it's like they call it a medium. I'd say it's a medium to heavy, but it's not gonna put you on your ass if you're not used to
It's
smoking
not like
the
an
darker
AJ Fernandez
cigars.
last call.
Yeah, but
That's
it's still
what-
got a good bit of heft to it, and it's not, I enjoy it still.
For sure. It's what I would call like a medium afternoon.
Yeah.
So you have your early afternoon or lunch sticks, and you have your late evening sticks. This is a good one to start your evening off on because it's dark and it's rich, but it's not heavy.
It smokes like a freight train.
Alec Bradley's bands are always really good.
And pairs well with a good cup of afternoon coffee.
Oh, yeah.
So that's gonna count as a win for me any day.
So let me ask you this. If you had to name your top 3 sticks, if gun to your head, the last 3 sticks you'll ever smoke in your life, what would be your top 3?
I honestly can't ever imagine a scenario where that would be the case. Because honestly, the number of re-smokes I have are very low, But I do like the Diesel Disciple. That's one I enjoy doing my quiet time with, my study time with, and enjoying that. I've had some good luck with Romeo and Julietta's. You and I talked the other day about the actual Cuban, and those have a special place in my heart. First cigar I smoked. So third one, man, I don't know. Probably just given the state of things, the dumpster fire, just for entertainment value. You know, Warfighter's dumpster fire.
Warfighters is a great stick and a great price point. You can't beat $5.50.
What are they, like $5-6?
It's $5.50, man. It's a great stick.
Nothing against Drew Estates, because I like a lot of what Drew Estates puts out there, but man, for $5.50 versus the factory smokes, I'll take the dumpster fire all day.
Well, and not to mention the brand Warfighter and just what all they do, and it being a small company and what they're based around, veteran made and veteran owned. I love the message from Warfighter.
Yeah, so I don't know if I told you this, but a number of years ago we were at the TPWD, it's a SWAT conference, and we go out to a bar one night trying to catch the hockey game, and I'm not much of a drinker, but everybody else was, so we found an outdoor bar with a smoking area, and we roll up, and there's a bunch of dudes just handing out cigars, and we're going, all right, well, we're going to go be friends with them, because they're handing out cigars, and it was the dudes from Warfighter. It was probably one of the first couple of years they were up and running, and this was just SWAT conference, a bunch of hair gel and Velcro, and dudes getting blasted at night, and they figured it was a good place to make a name for themselves. And honestly, we had a great time talking with them for, I think we probably burned 4 or 5 sticks that night with those guys sitting around an outdoor fire watching the hockey game. But super great dudes. Really enjoyed our time down there with them. So I'll go back to them frequently.
Harrison, what's your opinions on Warfighters?
Oh, I love them. They're great guys. Great sticks. I'm always about smaller companies if I can find them. Love doing business with them.
That boutique brand.
Yeah.
I hate that name. It sounds a terrible name.
Does not go with a cigar. They got to find a different name for that.
I mean, I get where it came from. It just doesn't.
But they still have to.
Yeah, they got to find a different name.
Like boutique cigars does not. Maybe in San Francisco, but in East Texas, that's not what we're after. Yeah.
Harrison's shop was the very first place I ever found Warfighter cigars, and it was maybe a year and a half later, just in travels. When I go to Tyler, I go to Longview, I go to Shreveport, I'm gonna stop, especially when I go to Longview.
Yeah.
I dislike going to Longview Cigar Lounge for one reason and one reason only. Two, their humidor room is so massive that it's overwhelming. You would spend 4 hours looking through there trying to find. And I don't like their lounge. It's just very cold. It's very dark. It's very impersonal. There's no warmth to it. You don't feel like you can sit down and talk with folks. You feel like you have to kind of compartmentalize.
So it's the guy who doesn't like the word boutique.
Look, man, I think cigars and smoking cigars is more about the camaraderie, the ability to sit in the community and the conversations you can have.
No, it isn't. And you building this place here, that's the heart of what we're after. And it's a little home away from home. Not to mention we get to smoke cigars in the air conditioning. So forever grateful, Harrison, for building a place where I don't have to sweat to smoke a cigar.
Well, I tell you what, my jaw burning this thing down. I can't get enough of it. Harrison, we've gone over our ranking system before, but I don't think we have necessarily gave Jack the full debrief on how we do our rank. Do you want to go ahead and tell him about our 1 through 5 ranking system?
Yeah, I'll go over it briefly. So, we rank them 1 through 5. 1 being the top, 5 being the bottom of the list. 1 is a cigar that we keep in our humidors at all times. 2 is a cigar that we'll pick up and smoke if we're around and have the opportunity. 3 is the broadest of the categories. We just call it category. You smoked it. It's fine. You didn't care for it. In the middle. 4 is a cigar that probably wouldn't buy again, but if somebody handed it to you, you would still smoke it. And then 5s are you wouldn't smoke them again.
Ever again, never. Factory smokes for me. I don't care. You could give me a lifetime supply, and I would give them away.
There's not too many that fall in the 5 category, and it's the ranking isn't just how much you enjoy them, but availability, price,
presentation is a big one for me.
presentation on them. So
Alec Bradley's, my father's, cigars that have like vintage, like the vintage diesel has a very pretty, very unassuming band. I just love the presentation, the box presentation on a bench.
That's the same, and I didn't mention it earlier, but the Undercrown.
Yes.
The Undercrown Maduro. And I know you try to keep some of those in stock for me, but it's not elaborate, but it's clean.
Yeah.
It's a very, it would fit in a place like this.
Yeah.
Not flashy, not over the top, but it's a good smoke. It's a clean presentation.
Yeah.
For sure. And then the flip side of that coin, in my opinion, would be like the My Father's or the Alec Bradleys. Because if you look at
like a boutique band.
my opinion has always been a company goes one of two ways when they put this much into a band. And they're either just absolute trash cigars because they spend all their money in development on the band, or you get sticks like Alec Bradley's Magic Toast or My Father's Antilles.
Yeah. Is that the red ribbon?
Yes.
Yeah.
That one that I gave you that time?
Yeah.
It's got a lot of that cinnamon baking spice in it. Not like a peppercorn spice, but it's like a baking spice to it.
They match the quality of their cigars with the band they put on.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, it's half
two ways on that.
half of the cigar is a presentation to me.
That's everything, though, right? Like, you either spend all your time looking good, or you spend all your time doing good. Very rarely do you have that kind or good mix of, hey, it looks right, it acts right. That's what we're after.
For sure. I feel like if you put enough time to dedicate to both, you can't help but succeed. If you make sure you have your bases covered and you're good and well set up, and then you spend that time to make sure it looks good at the same, you're going to get A's all around.
Yeah.
So, Harrison and I have this weird thing. We're normally in the first 2/3 of a stick. We can pretty well guess what our ranking would be. Harrison and I have been smoking together 5 years now. Since the beginning of 2024, it's been 3-4 times a week. So, now is the time we kind of roll through there and talk about what we taste in the stick. We're kind of getting into the kind of the second, third now. But can you taste anything, Zach, from what you're smoking?
As far as any of the finer, no, my palate is not. Like, this is a really good, enjoyable smoke. I mean, you get a little bit of kind of bite to it.
Yeah.
But it's not, so thinking like a super heavy Maduro. It doesn't sit quite as thick. A little bit lighter, a little airier. A little bit of kick to it. But like you said, for that perfect kind of little afternoon, is I've smoked heavy Maduros in 115 degree. Like, there's a time and place for them. That's not it. And speaking from experience, that's not it. This could be one of those where, hey, if we were stuck outside, we could still enjoy a heavier side of things cigar.
So something that Harrison taught me when I first started smoking was that if you'll get online and go pull up like a cigar flavor wheel while you're smoking, and he's got a book in here, it's a small little leaflet book that has a flavor wheel, but if you'll look at that flavor wheel and consciously think about each one of these little, winglets, and go, yeah, that I'm tasting this. It helped me develop my palate and start looking for more of these flavors.
Yeah, because I'm very much the same way to do. I don't tend to get vanilla or chocolate or little flavors, but it is something about if you're looking at it, you can every once in a while go, that's what that was. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I get it. But some of these flavors people pull out are
I'm not in.
way out there.
Good, better, and different, man. The more you get into that, I feel like the less you can pick up any stick and enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
So
very
me
close.
right now, like, man, you give me a stick, I'm having a good time.
Oh yeah.
I don't care. Like, I'm having a good time.
And it's definitely, I get it. You start to overanalyze.
Yeah.
You start thinking about it every time, and that is the problem that you can get into.
Related to the gun world, right? And you know what I carry on a day-to-day basis now. Man, once you refine that palate, things just don't taste the same that they used to.
Yeah, well,
And so, you know, it's a dangerous game to play.
I agree. We're gonna get into that a little further on. So, Harrison, if you had to rank the Alec Bradley Magic Toast, where are you putting it?
It'd be a 2.
Call it.
It's not something I keep around all the time because it's not necessarily my go-to style on the cigar.
Hi. All you have is cigars?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Okay, bye.
And pipes, but don't have simple cigarettes.
Well, a lot of people come in asking for cigarettes and like White Owls and Swisher Sweets.
Yeah.
You don't carry swishers?
We do not carry
Yeah.
Swishers.
I carry premium cigars only and pipe tobacco.
Well, but you really like
I like the darker,
the tabernacles.
Yeah,
That's got a little more rough cut edge on it.
But like I've said, for a middle of the day cigar,
Yeah.
trying something a little lighter. Maybe I have some work to finish in the afternoon.
Yeah.
It's a good go-to for that.
I know. So for me, I get where you're coming from, but if I've got work to do, I like that heaviness to the cigar.
No,
You're just like, I don't know, it brings me into, I don't know if you've ever heard of a book called Deep Work, where you kind of find that flow state. Man, sitting there with just one of those just raunchy, heavy Maduros, or just like, you can feel the cigar. To me, that's where I get into that headspace of, okay, we're gonna buckle down. We're gonna get some work done today. If I'm creating a training plan or running some programming for the coaching side, like, man, I love having that because I can just, or especially studying the Bible. Hey, the Bible is so rich. Yeah, I was reading this morning in Jeremiah 5, and I've read that. Our Monday night group has been, I think we're on our 3rd week of Jeremiah 5, and I've read it a dozen times, and I'm still scribbling new notes today. But oh man, that's there and that's there, and having something super heavy to be able to dive into that word with, man, that gets me excited. Like, okay, we're gonna have some fun today.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's interesting, based more on what you use a cigar for. So, like, my opinion has always been, I enjoy a dark, heavy cigar at the very end of the night because it lowers me down, it gets me relaxed and ready to just crash out. But if I have something to do in the mid-afternoon, I like something with a little more bite, a little more spice. It just kind of wakes me up, kind of like a good cup of coffee does. And in Tilly's with the baking spice, or that H. Upman Teal Band that's light enough. It's got a little heft to it, but it's light enough that it's airy and it picks me up and it wakes me up. But something like, a Tabernacle or the Last Call, something dark and heavy, lulls me right to sleep. So I think it's interesting to say, like, you feel like it motivates you, it picks you up, it makes you ready to rock on and go to work, whereas it puts me to sleep, just kind of talks more to what a cigar does for each person.
Oh yeah.
Have you read Spurgeon's quote on smoking cigars?
I have not. Are we talking about Travis Spurgeon?
No,
I was going to say.
no, Charles Haddon Spurgeon, the Prince of Preachers. And he made a comment, and some news media ran it, and he was catching a whole bunch of bunch of crap for it, but he essentially said, you know, I smoke to the glory of God. And of course, as a preacher, they were giving him a whole bunch of crap over it. So he explained a little bit more. He goes, when I can smoke and I can relish in my Creator's creation, and it calms my mind and it soothes my breathing and all these things, you know, and again, taking the quote into my own words, but you know, all these things that the cigar does for him points to the benevolence of his Creator.
For sure.
So what you're saying right there, that the cigar speaks to what you're looking to do with it, and it's kind
I
of
feel like it's a purpose beyond all things. The idea that it does what it does for you because that's what you needed, and there was a plan behind that. There's a reason why it's motivated you in this way. I believe that it comes from God knowing what you need the most at that time.
it does what it do.
Not to mention, I've always loved that cigars, especially pipes, give you the chance to either with friends kind of seek some fellowship and some counsel, or by yourself, gives you that peace and the ability to just slow everything down, think things through, meditate a little bit. And I've always enjoyed that, whether it's Harrison and I sitting here together on a Wednesday, and we're both looking at our phones, and it's dead quiet in here, but we're still in fellowship together, hanging out, enjoying what we're doing.
So you said it, today's day and age, we're always running. Like, honestly, smoking a cigar is the only time I see you sit down. You're running all over the place, you know, between everything. And so having a chance where we're so rarely in today's culture, we have a chance to sit and, like you said, meditate or reflect or just have a conversation between friends, like without worrying about what's coming next. You know, I think the cigars offer you that. Now, granted, if you're on the go a lot, those little underground tins are money, because I can chunk a $3 stick on the ground a whole lot faster than I can chunk a $15 stick on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, there's a time and place, but no, when you light a cigar like this, or you know, one of your favorites with your friends, and you can just sit there. I mean, how long did we sit for our first Sticks and Stones meeting?
That's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it was almost 3 hours, and I think we all burned a couple sticks while we were at it. But you know, it's one of those where it gave us the time to just sit here with nothing else to do, but to live life a little bit together, and that's the magic behind something like this. You know, the peace pipes, Indian tradition, right? It's a chance for us to all sit here. We're all on the same page. We're doing the same thing. We're moving in the same direction.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to change pace for just a second, kind of get a little background information on you. So you're not from Texas originally.
No, and for those of you who've heard me talk, I wasn't even born below the Mason-Dixon line.
Okay. Where are you from, Jack?
So I was born in Pennsylvania.
You and Alicia both.
Yep, a suburb of Philadelphia, and you know, the way the Lord worked everything out. Moved to South Georgia when I was very young. So grew up in South Georgia, spent a couple years in school in North Carolina. Back to Georgia, and then I came to Texas to be a game warden. So it was a wandering journey, but one that I got to do some very cool things along the way, and really enjoyed what brought us to here, to Jefferson.
So what motivated you to be a game warden? I mean, especially a Texas game warden.
So long story long, because I like to talk. If you come out to one of my classes, you'll find that out. But when I transferred back to Georgia, had a friend taught me into Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources. Hey, when I got in there, you could be a wildlife technician for the state of Georgia and a game warden. So dual commission, basically a state paid farmer with a badge and a gun. And I thought, I get to ride a tractor and shoot a gun for a living? Like, man, that's right up my alley. But being the student that I was, it took me a little longer to graduate. And by the time I graduated, they had split those two commissions. So you could be either wildlife or law enforcement. I tried the wildlife side. I really enjoyed it, but just there wasn't that sense of fulfillment there. because I was a state employee with college debt, I needed to have a secondary job, and I was working at a gun shop at the time. And one of our regular clients or customers, he came in and heard I was kind of looking around for an LE job, and he said, "Man, you gotta look at those Texas Game Wardens. What was pretty spot on." So one thing led to another. My wife and I were dating at the time. I'm sitting in front of the computer and said, "Hey, I think I just applied to be a Texas Game Warden." She goes, "I'm in. Let's go." And selected.
You gotta love a woman that just backs your play like that.
Yeah. Well, so she had done an internship in the Tyler area in college. So bless her heart, when she heard Texas, she thought all of Texas was like Tyler. And so she was down, Tyler, East Texas, a lot like Georgia, it's just moving down the road a little bit. We'll be just fine. Well, bless her heart, my first duty station out of the academy was on the border. Which, if you've ever been on the border, is nothing like East Texas. The people have much better tans. The food comes with a lot of corn tortillas, and it's phenomenal. There's no trees. Trying to explain what a tree stand was to friends I made down there was like you hang this thing in a tree and you sit in it. I said, "But why are you sitting in a tree? They're like 40 feet tall." They go, "No." And so
The biggest thing we got down there is we sash.
right, and you're not sitting in a weekend tree. And so, bless her heart, she followed me down there. She was great. Helped take care of me while I was off learning what it was to be a game warden, and we eventually, she kind of gave me the ultimatum, like, "Hey, I love you, but we're not having a Valley baby." Yes, ma'am. So we moved to Orange, Texas, and a brief layover there, and we ended up here in Jefferson because my old partner, he heard we were contemplating moving. And he said, "Man, I don't even expect y'all to move up here. Y'all just come visit Jefferson. Your wife's going to love it. It'll be a great weekend away from the family." I said, "Okay." So we come visit. They drove us all around. He fed us a steak dinner, and which did play into the decision, right? And on the way back to the hotel that night, she looked at me. She said, "We're moving here." What? Because as a cadet, we used to come to Wilkes Power Plant. We got a Caddo.
Yep.
So I came on that side of the trip, and I loved it. I said, Jefferson. Since I moved to Texas, Jefferson was the first place that felt like home to me. But then never in a million years realized that I would get the opportunity to live here. So when she told me that, well, we get home, I fired off my email, said, "Hey, we're moving to Jefferson." Chain of command approved it, and just a few weeks later, we were packing a truck and heading this way.
I totally get that. I started with Jefferson Police Department. It was 3 months of me living in Nacogdoches and driving up here the hour and a half every day and every day back. And Savannah had yet to have been to Jefferson. We came up one weekend and stayed in the bed and breakfast so I could show her around town. We got here Friday afternoon. Saturday at lunchtime, she looked at me and she said, "You need to start looking for a house for us to live in here."
That's
So
fantastic.
we moved in off of on Coffeyville Road. We lived in a little red house.
Oh, that's right. I did move there first.
And we have never looked back. We will never move from here. This is our home. Because like you said, we grew up in little communities outside of Nacogdoches. My community was Appleby, Texas, and Savannah's was Central Heights. So small town, brick street feels. And so when we first moved up here, she's like, "This is home," and she never wants to leave.
I still get that way sometimes. When you drive down the brick roads over here past the fountain by the post office, just one of those where I cannot believe that I actually get to live here.
It's a beautiful town.
This
This
is home. And now my folks are out here, my in-laws are out here. We got the whole family, and man,
That's awesome.
it's such a good place to be for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, while you were a warden, you also did a lot of other jobs. Because as a warden, you wear a lot of hats.
Other duties as assigned.
Right? And so I know, in my experience, you did a lot of training for the police department and the sheriff's department in this area while you were a warden. And I kind of wanted to take a minute to talk about that, about some of the jobs that you had as a warden, and maybe some advice that you could give to guys looking to do some of those jobs.
Yeah. So basically, Forrest Gump your way through life. That's it. You know. But in all reality, when I signed up to be a warden, you know, I thought checking deer camps, riding back roads, chasing spotlighters, that was the end all be all of existence, and I had a lot of fun doing that for a number of years. And honestly, I don't recall where the switch flipped for me, but at some point I knew I wanted to be involved in our special operations. So the Game Wardens have a team called the Scout Team, whatever they call themselves now because of Austin and then being Austin, but it's the Scout Team, essentially the Warden Service version of a SWAT team. Mostly focused on rural operations, still do a lot of building, clearing, warrant services, things like that. So I said, you know what, man, this is where I want to be. It's kind of the pinnacle of where we operate. And I went to selection and I washed out. I'm like, man, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. And following that, I got with some of the guys that were on the team. Hey, how do you train? How do you get better? How do you get to the point where this is who you are, or at least a huge part of who you are, right? And so I had a bunch of great mentors. Our team lead, he's now team sergeant there. A guy who's since promoted. You know, they took the time to invest in me, and I think that's the biggest thing is finding someone who's willing to invest in you. Find a mentor. Here's the deal, though, and you guys both know this from your experience. The mentors don't approach the mentee. The mentee has to approach the mentor. You have to go seek out those people who are where you want to be or moving in the direction you want to be moving into, and say, hey man, how did you get from where I am to where you are or where you're going? And you know, fortunately for me, those guys took me under their wing. I devoted the next, I think it was 2 years between selections, but I spent those 2 years reading, studying, training, seeking out every opportunity I could, so that when I went back to selection, you know, training physically extraordinarily hard. You know, the physical piece for me at that time, it was grueling and it was daunting, but it was one of the things I didn't have to worry about. I knew from the shooting and the training, that was nothing I had to worry about. I knew because the Lord made me such a talkative fool that the teamwork aspect would be, you know, pretty easy for me throughout selection. And so, it sucked. It was a selection. They're built that way, but that opened up so many doors for me. And got an opportunity. Hey, you're here. Can you come help us teach this real quick? Sure, I don't know what I'm doing. And then when I moved to this county, and Rob said, hey, we're doing this guardian training. Can you help us train our guardians? And I started into the teaching and realized, man, being able to share and teach and help develop, that's a passion. And the doors kept getting open for me to the point where one of the instructors at our academy reached out and said, hey, can you build a lesson plan? I said, for what? He goes, for the whole state. Are you sure you want me to do that? And so, and it was a team effort. It was not just me. It was a team effort of a bunch of guys getting together, but you know, learning how to create. Hey, we have this problem. The solution's over there. How do we get from problem to solution, and how do we train people on that? And that was kind of a bug that got me. Was able to take Will Petty's material creation class and see like the ins and outs of the data-driven statistics that push you to problem, solution. Here's how we train everybody. Here's how you learn the logistics to training everybody. So, been a lot of fun on that side of things.
All right. So, I've got a personal question that I want to know.
Oh,
How has the job as a warden changed from pre-border crisis to border crisis now, and how has that changed how the warden service operates at the border and locally here at home?
I can't answer pre-border crisis.
I'm sure you've ran some.
It's basically been there since since I was a warden. I graduated August of 13. May of 14, we're doing sustained border operations. So as far as I'm concerned, the border ops have been border ops. Where the job has significantly changed is politics. You wouldn't think that the guys who drive around and never get on the radio and don't have a boss, it's politics.
Politics.
In my tenure there, we had 3 colonels. I went through 3 colonels. One was good colonel, good leader, but more status quo. So we just kind of chugged along. We had one leader that everybody on the front line absolutely loved, and Austin absolutely hated. So you can guess which one was our favorite colonel. Then the guy now, and I'm sure he's doing the best he can, but it's the best he can kind of deal. So just when there's a leadership void, something or somebody tries to fill it, and a lot of times, especially when there's politics, and especially when there's money in play, like with the border crisis, the governor's office is shelling out money, and there's always going to be some push and pull, and learning how to play the game and being adept at it is something that, let's face it, the people who become a game warden are game wardens for a reason, and it's not because we're politicians. And so, trying to be as political as I can in answering the question.
Sure.
But, and it comes in waves, right? The guy before the colonel who was there when I took over, I've heard was an absolute wreck. I was fortunate through most of my tenure, we had at least decent, if not good leadership. And so, it comes in waves. There's highs and lows to everything, just like any job, really, right? As a businessman, it's the economy. The economy is essentially your boss. There's highs and lows, and so you just kind of learn to roll with the punches. Learn when to keep your head down and keep trucking forward, and learn when you can really push the envelope.
So, final question before we take a quick little break. It's going to be: do you have any advice to any men or women who are seeking the same path in the warden services? What would be something you wish somebody would have told you before you?
Be a firefighter.
Be a firefighter.
Don't be a cop. Be a firefighter.
So, but is there anything that you could tell them if they're determined that they're going to follow this path?
Man, honestly, it's a great job. It is no longer the lifestyle. When I first started, very much so was the game warden your lifestyle. It was who you were, it's who your family was. Anymore, man, it's a job. And keep in mind that it is and always will be just a job. I left the game wardens in March. There's 2 new guys in my spot right now.
Yeah, I've had the ability to work with Cody.
Yeah.
And he's a bang up dude.
Great guys, and we are very lucky to have them here in the county. But at the end of the day, my spot's been filled that quick.
Yeah. Well, and that always shows you.
Your family, nobody else is coming in to take over your family for you. And so don't let the job dictate the rest of your life. It's a job. And yes, we are, as a game warden, you are granted a lot of freedoms and a lot of opportunities to do different things, but you're on call 24/7. No matter what they say, no matter what FLSA says, you're on call 24/7. But at the end of the day, man, what's the right decision for you? What's the right decision for your family? And make the family priority. Something that I wish I'd taken more to heart, but it's something that's always stuck with me. And me and this supervisor, we didn't always see eye to eye. But when I was a cadet sitting in the Wilkes Power Plant cafeteria, and he was speaking to all the cadets, he said, guys, there's one thing you have to remember. It's God first, family second, everything else comes third. And that's everything. That's the job, that's your career, whatever. God first, family second, everything else comes third. And as long as you keep those priorities right and you keep them ordered appropriately, man, it'll be the best job in the world for you.
So, I smoke cigars a little quicker. Harrison's about where I'm at. So,
Well, I'm Jack do most of the talking.
I've been talking.
So,
I can't believe it hasn't gone out as much as I thought.
yeah. Chugging right on through the Alec Bradley Magic Toast. So we'll kind of, right before we take this break, wrap up our thoughts on the final third. That we skipped the second third. Harrison, do you have anything you'd like to say? I think it's changed a little bit into more of like some woody cedary. You ever get like you smell a good cedar plank? Getting a lot
This would go good with a scotch. That last little bit,
Yeah.
cap it off with that peaty scotch.
Yeah.
The American Oak selection that we had.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried the Glenlivet American Oak selection?
No.
It's a 12-year scotch you can get up here at the local liquor store. It's like $45, and it's a dark navy blue label, and it's the American Oak selection. And Harrison, not being a real big Scotch fan, loved it.
Yeah.
I love Scotch.
It's got a lot more of the
You would.
bourbony
I do
taste
love
to it,
Scotch,
but
yeah.
it has a Scotch note at the end.
Yeah.
It's very good. I enjoy it.
I'm not much of a drinker, but every now and then,
Yeah.
just a little, one finger neat
Yeah.
with dessert to pair with a cigar.
Oh,
But by the same token, I'd much rather have a good cup of coffee.
Well,
Hey, Port Jefferson Coffee Roasters, they're crushing it.
Heck yeah.
They
So
make some good coffee.
I'm extremely happy. The Port of Jefferson actually created 9 flags with Nacogdoches. And that was the first date my wife and I ever went on, was the 9 Flags Roaster in Nacogdoches.
Really?
And so when we moved up here to Jefferson, we lived right down the street from them for many years while we were, when we were dating, we would go there, and then when we moved in together, we would go there every morning when she went to work and when I would go to work. And then when we moved up here, okay, that's great, that's awesome, got to looking into it, got to meeting the guys, like, there's a picture of 9 flags on your wall, what do you know about this? Oh, we own it. So they have always made great coffee. They roast their own beans. It's great coffee.
Oh, yeah. Great people.
Well, we're going to take a break and come back and kind of move into what you've been doing outside of the warden service, outside of law enforcement, and kind of discuss what you, Jack, and Rob, and DJ have been up to in the last couple of years. All right, so we'll be right back. Here's and whatnot. Oh, the life of a Marion County deputy. That's another question I'm going to ask you.
That is interesting. Introduction there.
Yep. One of my favorites.
What is that?
We always like,
So much
it's kind of a cayenne, like,
spice,
pepper kick on the
baking spice, pepper kick. So Monte Cristo makes
But
some,
it's earthy.
herby.
It's a very different cigar.
It
It's
really
not-
is.
So Monte
Very
Cristo
few
is
found one.
known to like pop off there, off the wall, out there. So we've got a bundle of one of the number ones in my group is the Monte Cristo Medianoche. And you growing up talking about being on a farm, it smells like a barnyard. That musky and hay and wild juniper and jasmine and honeysuckle, dude, it tastes like all of that rolled into one.
Good
And it's-
fall day.
Yeah, and it's dark.
So there's a company we found in Charleston, and I forget the name of it. I think it's still got a card somewhere. But they have things like the Defusky Island rum cigar, which are all like barrier islands where I grew up, and we'd go out to and hang. Like smoking those cigars, I get it. Like I know why you named this cigar that, because you can almost taste the driftwood and the salt spray and all.
Yeah.
That's a cool
When they
experience.
capture a moment, because that's exactly how I felt about the Monte Cristo Medianoche. Just growing up on a farm, a ranch, farm, we worked a lot of horses, we worked a lot of cows, and it reminds me of being in the feedlot. Just like a musky, woody cedar, because our entire fence line was made out of cedar. And so like During a hot summer day at noon,
Yeah.
you're sweating your ass off, and the sap in those cedars start to warm up, and the breeze brings it through, and you're smelling the honeysuckle growing up through, and you're smelling the cedar bushes, you're smelling that musky odor from the inside of a barn, and musky hay smell, and so it just really encapsulates a moment for me, and it's even cooler when they name one, and you can just
Yeah.
pull it.
Yeah, like that. That's the Fusky Island. That was always a cool island to go to, and the name's cool, but like, just that's it. I'm hanging out on the island.
Yeah.
So, welcome back. That's the first half of the show. That was Alec Bradley Magic Toast. Smoked great, smoked well. We just smoked it all the way down. So,
Somebody was talking too long.
no, I don't know. But we decided that we were going to spark up another cigar, and this is absolutely one of my favorites. It's one of my number one rankings. It's the Monte Cristo Espada. Not the Oscuro Espada, but the plain Espada. Espada is Spanish for sword, and that's what you saw on that box. Absolute
Rapier on that.
the rapier on the box, but it's one of my absolute all-time favorites. It's what I call a midday. You taste that spice. It's got an herby, woody spice to it that kind of elevates, kind of wakes you up, in my opinion. So, Aaron, do you have anything to say about the Espada?
It's a good one. It's not in my profile normally. Like I said, I smoke that darker stuff, but it is a really good, early, before you smoked anything else, or even after that last call, it still has a good flavor to it.
Be a good breakfast cigar.
Yeah.
But,
Get you
like I said, as soon as I sparked up, I asked, "What is that?" Because that is so interesting. But it's good. It's a good kind of get you thinking.
It's definitely in your face. I've always enjoyed sticks like AJ Fernandez's Last Call, or even the Tabernacle, or the Antilles, that it immediately punches you in the teeth. From the very first light, it's in your face the whole time, with whether it's a spice or a flavor. It's very loud. And then I enjoy a cigar that just kind of slowly eases off and mellows out, and then just ends the night just on a very calm, cool pace. Just, I don't know, I've always enjoyed a stick that's very present at the very beginning. So, well, now that we're coming back from the break, we talked about how you got into teaching as a warden, and then, like I said, you taught a lot of my coworkers at the sheriff's department, at the police department, you, Rob, DJ, did a lot of tactics and a lot of firearms work with us, just to make sure that we were, if nothing else, on the same page. And right before COVID hit, we were meeting once a week or so, and we were doing, whether it was trauma medical first aid, or some kind of movement or shooting drills or something. And I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk like what led you to that point. I would like to discuss what some of the items, especially obviously law enforcement, but what the average person should keep on them. A tourniquet, gauze or quick clot, or something that you would recommend the average person, my wife per se, to keep in her car or in her purse with her, just in case.
So, a lot of questions all at once there. I guess what led us to that was, a couple different things. One was realize that, especially with me in the special operations side, Rob with the national teaching side, and DJ with his plenty of experience in the Marine Corps, we realized that we were given this wealth of knowledge. And, unfortunately, some of the local departments here, their annual training budget is $2,500 or something like that. And when you look at, and we've run the numbers on this, so essentially, if the chief of police here sends one person to a free class for 2 days, it'll end up essentially costing the department $2,000 in travel per diem and overtime for coverage, things like that. And that's if they don't pay a dime in tuition, and they don't have to pay for any ammo or anything like that. It's still an expensive class. It eats up a lot of their annual budget. So you know what, man? Rob and I, obviously, we love to teach. We both spend a significant portion of our time doing it, and we have at least lesson plans that we can put together. And these guys who, hey, on a slow night, can we meet in the Sally Port and go for medical? Can we meet at the range and do some low light shooting or shooting around cover? I think we even cleared through the courthouse over there a couple times, just running flow drills through a structure. And so a couple on the job experiences where we realized that, hey, not everybody's on the same page. Can we standardize a little bit of SOPs as far as some of these things go? And then I know we're probably going to talk about it later, but when that boy got shot at on the WMA, kind of an eye opener. Hey, do we have what we need, and are we training appropriately?
Is everybody on the same page of like how we need to conduct this?
Hey, there's an issue here that needs to be addressed. Do we have the tools that can solve the problem? Do we have the knowledge to be able to use the tools appropriately? And the funny thing about that is, at that time, Rob and I had the knowledge and the tools, and we get back after carrying this boy on a backboard through knee-deep water, and Rob looks down, and he's got a 22-foot piece of nylon hanging off his belt, and going, man, that sure would have been handy about an hour ago. And so, again, learning, in that debrief from that night, because we all gathered up and said, hey, while it's still fresh, we're going to sit, what went well, what went wrong, and what could we kind of do better?
Right.
And having those open and honest dialogues after, we call that a critical incident. Whether anybody died or not, it's a critical incident, right? It's physically, mentally, emotionally taxing to go through something like that. And so, have a debrief, have that open and honest discussion of, hey, where are we? What did we do well? And continue to build, hey, we found a deficiency here. Let's start addressing. We call it sustain and improve, right? So sustain, things we did good. We're going to sustain our training regimen on this. We're going to sustain our SOPs here. Or improve, there's some room for improvement there. So let's figure out, again, problem solutions over here. How can we get from A to B? And I think that, especially in law enforcement, is something that's often overlooked unless an officer gets killed, right? We don't often do debriefs on situations that turn out well. Because, hey, high five, we'll high five and bump wieners and everybody's happy because at the end of the day, the good guys went home in one piece. And, there's still a lot of things that we can learn from those instances. So that was kind of our heart behind it was, hey, can we start increasing, I guess, the standardization across the county between the four major agencies that play in and around the county, and can we continue to improve and make sure that, hey, if you, me, a trooper, and a game warden have to go through a door, we're all on the same page and we know what the other's going to do.
And that was what was important to me and why I attended them as often as I could, was that we were all, whether in our respective counties or academies, taught differently in the ways to do things. And nothing was more apparent than, like you said, when we went to make a clearing do a clearing on a house, and this agency did it this way, and I did it this way, and they did it this way, and we're all on the fly trying to figure out what it absolutely matters. We're doing it right now, and going, oh my God, this, 50-50, we're going to get hurt here, because we didn't take the time to slow down and work together. And so we started training a lot, like I said, before COVID, whether it was clearing in or medical, or we wrestle and just work on tactics of arrest, or however, and we all kind of congealed as a group, learn from one another. At one point in time, my favorite story is Quaid and I, though we were from Quaid Davis.
If it's got LaQuadric in it, then it's going to be good.
Regardless of the fact that he and I were in two different agencies at the time, we cleared so many buildings together that you get to that point where you don't have to talk. You don't have to announce what you're doing, because he knew what I was doing based off of how many times we had done it together. We just knew how one another worked. And I enjoyed that that ability between he and I wanted that ability with every man on my team and everybody that I had to work with. Because like I needed you to know that when I stacked up behind you, that I knew what I was doing and I had your back. And it's hard when you get a new guy that you don't know and you go, you can't say, hey, I'm going to trust him wholeheartedly. It's
You go first.
yeah, or it's I guess I'm just going to pull his weight too, just because I'm not getting shot in the back tonight. But I want to say I appreciate the training that you and Rob and DJ have put on, post-COVID, meeting with us when you could. I took that and soaked it up like a sponge as best I could because it was a wealth of knowledge for me. And I know it made my wife feel a lot better at the times when I was working night shift, knowing that I had people that I could trust and work with. So, moving forward.
Well, as far as medical equipment,
Yeah.
what everybody should carry. I think finding something like an individual first aid kit or an IFAC from a reputable company. North American Rescue kind of has the corner on a lot of that stuff. They have what we call COTC recommended, so the Committee on Tactical Casualty Combat Care. Yeah.
A lot of letters.
Yeah, as opposed to Tactical Emergency Casualty Care. But the COTC recommended medical adjuncts, so the seals, the tourniquets, all those things. Finding a kit that has all of that in it for a single person. If you're a family, having a family blowout kit, we call it, right? So is there enough tourniquets in there where if 2 or 3 of us go down, we have enough gear to get them to the hospital? The big thing is we don't save lives, especially first responders. Now, some of you firefighters, you guys can save lives, but all we do is we prolong their life long enough to get to what really saves their lives. And we say that's bright lights and sharp knives. And so that's the OR. Can we get them from where the point of injury is to the OR? And knowing how to use the adjuncts that you have in place and how to effectively apply them is a big part of that. And so, you get a little nose trumpet and, you don't know what that is, you might put it in the wrong hole, and that's not okay, right? So finding what's in the kit, learning how to train appropriately with that. There's plenty of free resources from reputable trainers online, or you can go to, most of your Stop the Bleed will at least have all the hemorrhage control stuff.
For sure.
You go on a North American's website and they'll point you to, TECC, so the civilian side of the combat care. They'll point you to classes. I know Ryan Training Group over in Louisiana, for sure, they're starting to push out some really good medical stuff. I know, North American has a few classes they put on, right?
I mean, you gave me at one time, I was really interested in looking into combat medic training.
Yeah.
And I still am. I'm still slowly chipping away at it. But not only you, but another friend of mine who's currently a combat medic for the National Guard. He's deployed on the border right now. Both of you recommended an app to me.
Yep.
And I have that downloaded on my department-issued county cell phone and on my personal phone. And I read through it when I catch a break and just reading through the different articles. It has a lot of illustrations. So why don't you talk about that app?
So the app is called Deployed Medicine, and it holds basically all the literature that COTC puts out on an annual basis. They update it regularly. If there's a new adjunct up for review, a lot of times they'll have stuff on there for it. But I'd say annually they review, and they try and update some of those guidelines. And I think it was last year, I read through, there's a new piece on, hey, how do you handle a casualty's communications equipment in this environment? Oh, that's a good piece to know. You don't need a cop waking up while you're putting a tourniquet on and him screaming over the radio that something isn't going on anymore, right? And so, little things that you can pick up. I joke around like, that's the stuff I read when I'm bored. and don't have a paper book in front of me, I'll just get on the app and go through. But they have all their recommended adjuncts on there. They have basic training aids, things like that.
For sure. I mean, I found it a wealth of knowledge to just have at your fingertips at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, 9 times out of 10, I've got, my cell phone, my wallet, my keys, my handgun on me. And so at any time, I'm just sitting, minding my business with nothing else to do, 15, 20 minutes. It's a great resource for me to open up, look into, read into something I may not know, or the newest developments in something that's changed. Because as we move and pursue and continue to find more and more and better things to adapt or ways to adapt, it's good to stay on top of it. And of course, this doesn't just equate to, say, law enforcement, into the civilian world as well.
Yeah.
I know I've put tourniquets on people on crash scenes, or some of these things in an IFAC are good for everydays. I put we call it a boo-boo kit.
Yeah.
It's not a first aid kit, but we have an
Scratchy
IFAC
cover.
in my wife's car for her, an IFAC for me in her car, and then I have 2 in my personal vehicle. And I keep 1 for me, but always keep 1 for yourself. I don't care. That's mine. I'm here to tell you, I have, like, off of my chest, my plate carrier, I have a nutsack pouch that hangs down. That's mine. I don't care. That's mine.
But we're just gonna get the parental guidance recommended now.
Yeah, sure. And then I have a zipper pouch, admin pouch, that has extra tourniquets and chest seals and things for somebody else. But the pouch that hangs off my plate carrier has 2 tourniquets, chest seals, everything for me that I can just rip off the front, hand it to you, and go, hey, this is mine, rather than have to dig around and try to find it. But we also have our boo-boo kits that I put together from the Dollar Tree the Dollar Tree in Marshall, and it cost me less than $8. And it has everything I would need, and right down to hydrogen peroxide and rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
Everything I would need to handle any and all issues.
Ouchie boo-boos.
Yeah, spar, needing stitches that go in the hospital.
As a first responder, having, and again, the ouchie boo-boo kit, right, is so good for community relations, if nothing else. You happen to be driving by the park, the kid falls down, skins his knee up real bad. Hey, let me put some hydrogen peroxide, or let me clean it up for you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you a Superman Band-Aid, and you'll be on top of the world, by the time you go home and you forget all about it. So
Sure.
It's just little things like that go a long way to building relationships. Because at the end of the day, our job as firefighters, as law enforcement, gets so much easier when we have those relationships built. When they know they can trust you, when they call, you'll answer it. It's so important that when the bad things happen, those relationships are already there. And things tend to go a lot smoother. When you look at any of these active attacks where, somewhere down south of us, those relationships weren't there. Everybody was siloed, and we see kind of how that panned out. Whereas you go somewhere a little bit further east of us, the relationships were built, the drills were done, people knew each other. There was names and faces and recognition there, and things went extraordinarily well.
Right.
And so when you look at that, something like an ouchie boo-boo kit helps build those relationships. Hey, man, Jack Pearl, nice to meet you. I see you guys skin up me. Can I give you a cool Band-Aid to put on that, send you home? Okay, now that kid knows me.
Yeah.
I'm not just the dude in the truck with the woo-woos saying,
Right.
like, now there's a face and a name, and next time that kid sees me, I love it when they come up and run and give me a hug. Dude, super glad to see you today. Like, best part of my day was getting a hug from you, because that turd that we just had to take to jail was the worst part of my day. And you just followed it up with a hug from little 5-year-old G-man. Like, that's what I'm talking about.
It's all about community at the end of the day.
For sure.
I mean, I don't know if either of y'all were on scene when Roy's burnt down.
Burnt down.
I was down south.
I was sitting on the porch and smoking a cigar, looked over and I was like, that's not supposed to be turning black over there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of smoke.
And I mean, I'd be the fire department down there because I'm right down the 2 blocks, and I knew some of the department guys, and so when they pulled up, I hopped in with them, and because we had that, we knew each other.
Yeah. And there's a trust
some of my
there.
background that I could hop in with them and help out. So it's all about community at the end of the
Goes
day.
a long way.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the point. Whether you're fire or law enforcement or any other form of service, we're all of service to one another, and we're all made to be of service for God. My mother was always big on they should be able to know who Jesus is through you and your actions.
I forget who said it, but especially in our line of work, the phrase was, "You may be the only Bible that someone reads." And so, are you going out there every day? Are you living your life to reflect the light of Christ? So that, hey, I've never picked up a Bible, I've never touched a Bible, but that guy's got something, and I got to know more about that. Man, I'm so glad you asked. And that's a huge part of it. And I feel like, especially in public service, it is a calling. And so if you're getting into this for the glory, forget about it. If you're getting in it, well, no one's getting into it for the money.
No.
If you want the shiny car or the shiny badge or the clean, you're getting into it. You have to be called into this profession, and whatever side, whether it's fire, EMS, law enforcement, military, whatever it happens to be, you're called into the service, and you should reflect in your actions what that call is. And people should say, hey, again, I don't know what that guy has, but I ain't got it, and I need to figure it out.
But I gotta know. I gotta know.
I got to know. I got to know.
Quentin Tarantino's finest right there.
So,
So, like you said, I've always enjoyed and been very grateful for how much you and Rob and DJ have taught, whether it was the local police department, sheriff's department, or just hosting classes. It was always important to me, especially the medical, because I feel like as an officer, there's a power there. And that power is, if you can take a life, you should be able to save a life or extend a life. Because it goes along the same ideas of you should work just as hard to exonerate an innocent man as you should to convict a guilty man. And that being a law enforcement officer, you hold an ultimate power in your hand. And that you should be able to help and assist as much as the idea that a lot of guys say, protect and serve. I've always felt like that was backwards. So our job is to be of service and then protect those who can't protect themselves. So based on the training that you have given us, I feel like I've always been able to do my job better because of it. Whether or not you saw that or Rob saw that, I've always felt I could walk away from whatever wisdom.
I don't think he can do his job well at all, but I appreciate that. No, and thank you for saying that. That was a heart in our mission behind starting Black Cypress was we've got this training. There's people who would appreciate the training. Why don't we make this somewhat official and say, hey, let's get the ball rolling. I think Rob, DJ, and I were sitting around eating lunch one day, and I said, guys, I know this sounds crazy and like there's a whole lot of ego in this, but I've been thinking about starting a training company just to kind of officially give something that we've been taking from, essentially. And they both said, man, I'm kind of thinking the same thing. Hey, all right, well, let's make it a party. And so we kind of went in, we formed Black Cypress Training Group, LLC, and thought, hey, let's do what we can to give back. So our goal is, especially in a class setting, we never want to charge law enforcement. Obviously, there's a specialized course that requires a little bit of extra leg time. We'll work on that, but we want to teach civilians. And if you're a civilian and you take a class with us, thank you. But we'll charge them enough where we can train law enforcement for free. We think our civilian rates are relatively competitive. But essentially that pays for us to be able to go out and train law enforcement, train our responders, to go out there and be just a little bit more effective. So if we're holding a group class, hey, pistol 1 is this weekend, whatever it is, I'll call up the sheriff, I'll call up the chief, say, hey, I'm gonna slice you guys a spot, send somebody.
Yeah.
A lot of times we'll have some of our landowners or some people coming in and say, hey, here's a couple hundred rounds to get somebody through your next class. Man, that's awesome. So literally all these guys are out all this time. And we kind of make it a joke where, hey, you catch a call in the middle of a class, we'll leave one instructor to teach the civilians. The other 2 guys are going to run right there with you out to the call, and now you got backup. So trying to mitigate any excuses on, hey, why are you not training? And I'll be honest, the reason most people aren't training is pride. You can make up all the money or the time or these, but nobody wants to stand in front of someone else and not be very good at what they get paid to do.
Feel good at that job.
Right? We're a profession at arms, whether you agree with it or not, but you carry a gun for a living, you should be well qualified and efficient as well. And so nobody wants to go out there with a gun and say, man, you're that great a shot. Well, guess what? I washed out of selection because I wasn't that great a shot. And there's ways that you can overcome that. Now, it's not an overnight fix, right? You guys both know that anything worth doing isn't worth doing overnight. Minus making a baby, absolutely worth doing. You can do it in one night, guaranteed.
And I'm the one getting us the parental advisory?
That's right. Well, that's good family advice.
Yeah.
But if you put in the effort, you find someone who is where you want to be. Like, there's dudes out there, I'm chasing them. And I'm taking classes from those guys because they're that much better than I am. Find those people, learn from them, invest in yourself.
Take advice from guys who are currently in the position that you want to see yourself in.
Absolutely.
Something I had always seen. It's like when I first started going to the gym, you're watching videos of guys. And you didn't quite, because there's so much out there.
Like C-bomb.
Yeah, things like that. You're like, you're fooling yourself. If I ever thought I was going to be 150 pounds and like swole up, and I started looking at it and understanding, like I have an image of what I want, and you should start taking advice from people who are currently in the field or currently in the position that you want to be in later.
Yeah, and steroids.
Yeah, well,
No, I'm
TRT.
No, don't do steroids. They're not that great.
Yeah, just growth hormone.
This is not an endorsement for steroids. We laugh and we joke. This is not an endorsement for steroids. Don't do them. Earn it. You'll be happier with the results.
Oh, yeah.
Just take a lot longer. So, we're kind of already talking about the Black Cypress, and I guess I got a question. I know my wife is extremely interested because y'all do a ladies course, and my wife refuses. And I already known for a while. I can't teach my wife how to shoot. She just doesn't care to hear it from me, and I know she's excited.
That's wives everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, don't feel bad. That's wives everywhere.
So what kind of training can the average person expect to gain from Black Cypress Training Group?
So pre-COVID, we were out there. Was it pre? We been around that long?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So pre-COVID, we did hold at least quarterly classes, just try and work around our schedules. But with the border and travel and all that stuff, and then COVID happened, we realized, hey man, holding these classes, at least at this season in our lives, is probably not super ideal. So we're just going to open up, hey, you want a class? Call me, and we'll do kind of a private class. The benefit to that, as opposed to, hey, we've got some, so we call them POIs. We got these POIs we have to get through when I teach this class, right? X, Y, Z, you're going to learn this, and this order. Typically, now there's some left and right, depending on how the class is going. But the benefit with a private instruction class is, hey, what do you want to learn? How long you want to spend learning it? And how many rounds you're going to bring? And then we can go back there and we can build a class to meet your goals. So we take all the principles, the POI that we have for our set courses, but we tailor them to what you're after. So, hey, I want to learn how to shoot stages better at a match. Cool. I'm probably not the guy to teach you that because I'm not a big match gunner, but Rob used to compete at a really high level in matches. And so, hey, Rob can teach you how to prep stage. We can set some mini stages up out there at the range, get you through that. Hey, I want to learn defensive pistol. Cool. How do you carry? You'll come, you'll show up, and we'll tailor the class based on what you're after. And we've had some success, quite a few repeat customers there. The pricing is hit or miss on what I remember the pricing to be, and basically how much goes into that for the civilians. Again, if there's a chance that, hey, can I do a one-on-one? Absolutely. Obviously, I'll have to get to know the guy, but hey, do you mind if we have a cop come out too? Yeah, sure, cool. So we'll bring a cop out and we'll give a little bit more one-on-one instruction that way too. So again, always looking to push back to the community that kind of raised us up.
Right.
So again, for the civilians out there who've paid me way too much money for what I do, thank you. We're trying to pay it forward.
So, what kind of drills are y'all running? Because I was always told that if you're gonna get a firearms instructor, someone to train, they should do a sub 2 second build drill. So, what kind of drills are you running?
So one of my favorites right now is a guy who I think is a phenomenal instructor. Anyone in the Houston area ought to check him out. He's associated with Orion Training Group, but his Instagram is Stuffs and Pews. Anything in Texas with pistol on Orion's website, this guy teaches. Phenomenal shooter. But he developed what's called the runner drill, and it is super fun. I guess passing standard is, I think, 4 seconds ish, and then the runner is 3.5 or less. And it's a reduced A zone, and then 2 little 3-inch circles. Total of 9 rounds, but it's from the draw. You put 5 in the big, 2 and 2. Honestly, it's one of my favorite rounds. But again, it's 9 rounds, so every time you run it, you're like, it's 9 rounds at a time. So I do that a lot dry fire. Just working on vision, grip control, presentation, making sure that's clean. So when you go out and you confirm dry fire, you can actually kind of hit the ground running on your standard instead of just, all right, let me warm up with a box of ammo now that I'm good and ready. Because at the end of the day, the name of the game is performance on demand. So if we're sitting here and all of a sudden somebody busts in with a shotgun, can we perform here without a warm up? And that's the goal. So I like the runner. The build drill is always a ton of fun. Just because you should be scaring yourself with how fast you can shoot the gun.
For people who don't know what the build drill, do you mind talking about that?
Yeah. So the build drill is 7 yards. A zone hits are the ones that count, and from the draw on the tone, you have to get 6 rounds off in under 2 seconds, which is generally right around a 1 second draw, first round impact, and then you're running the gun to get the rest of them off.
Yeah. Harrison, what are some of your favorite? I mean, do you shoot drills at all, Harrison?
I have not shot a lot of drills in my time. I was more of a target shooter growing up.
For sure.
But
Do you prefer?
I need to get into some one of these days.
Well, even better. We'll take a Black Cypress Training Group course and we'll run it. I know that they run a pistol and carbine class that I really want to get into, just because the transitions. I know I'm sloppy on my transitions. It's just being able to look myself in the mirror and be honest and go, okay, I know I need work here. But at first, I've taken 2 of your courses, and I know I recommended them to anyone that I work with, or anyone that I deal with who's asked, where do we train, who do we train with, just because I enjoy their pistol course. And I love how you take it from absolute ground zero regardless.
Hey, don't look in this end because it's the dangerous end. You point it that way to now we're running billies.
Yeah, but I'm super excited that I know y'all are doing the pistol and the carbine courses, and I'm excited to do that. I really want to. I know Harrison.
Oh, yeah.
Harrison's a little different. I'm an AR guy. I've always been an AR guy. Harrison's an AK guy.
Oh, I was thinking lever gun. I had you
Oh,
back.
Oh, he's got several too.
I have a few of those.
But he likes the AKs, which the very first time I ever shot an AK was with Harrison. And I'm not gonna lie, I want one because they're cool. I just don't think I'd ever carry one on duty. But I would love to see Harrison run drills with that AK too. So we're gonna get Harrison in as well.
Yeah, we'll have a good time with that.
So I know for me I can see, but I see as far as how these drills are working and what the purpose is. But to people who don't understand where running drills like the Bill drill or one of my favorite, the El Presidente.
El Pres is great.
I love the El Pres because it teaches you how to move from target to target and be accurate and keep on line. But some people don't quite draw the connection between running a Bill drill. What's the purpose of pulling out and dropping 7 rounds in less than 2 seconds in a tight group? I mean, obviously it's pretty self-explanatory, but could you explain where some of these drills are real-world significant?
So, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's not every day that you get to bill drill some dude's face. Tony McBride, if anyone follows her on social media, she's a great example of being able to bill drill somebody on duty effectively. Saved her life, right? Phenomenal shooting, great placement. But realistically, why you push yourself so hard in drills like the Bill or El Pres or the runner drill is, and I reference it to driving a lot, right? So have you ever driven 140 miles an hour? You don't have to answer. Right.
Yeah.
So when you drive a car 140 miles an hour, how easy is it to drive 115?
Oh, a lot easier.
Right. So when you run a 175 bill drill, how much easier is it to run operationally a bill drill on a bad guy at a 2-second pace? And so when you learn truly how hard you can push the platform, when it comes game time and you slow things down to make the decision to react to the condition of the environment, that's why we push ourselves so hard on these drills that, yeah, it eats a lot of ammo and you run a lot of time on it. But when you truly learn how hard you can push the platform that you're operating, and it becomes a more of an extension of who you are rather than just a tool in your hand, that's what makes the difference. So when, I don't know if you saw at a Seattle PD, and the dude was a SWAT operator, come to find out. I did a seminar up there for them, but if you saw, it was I think 21 or 22, guy steals a little black baby, takes off, the officer is full sprint, slices the pie around a corner and T-boxes this guy right off of a sprint at 18 yards, right? That dude knew how hard he could push himself and his weapon system, and he saved that little baby's life. That's why it makes a difference. So if you can run a 1-8 bill drill out on the range, and you go into the house, and homie's holding a gun to his old lady's head, and you can bill drill him in the face, that's where it makes a difference. You're saving lives. It's not so you look insta-famous or you get all the accolades, but look how good this guy shoots. No, it's so we can make a difference and we can start saving lives. And that's the reason we do it. But if you're never drawn to figure out, hey, how hard can I push myself and how hard can I push my platform, find another job.
You know, I also feel like it's similar to civilian. No, kind of similar. But the young man this past week at the Trump rally in Pennsylvania, who had his daughter, who lost his life, one of the individuals shot and killed. You know, he shoved his wife and daughter down and out of the way, and then took round. You know, to me, as a husband, like that's. And as a cop, it's something that I pray and hope that I have the courage to be able to face if that's what's got to happen. And so I feel like it's important for people to be training because you've got to know where you're at. If you're a man, if you're a gun owner, first off, you've got to be responsible enough to know how to effectively and safely use your weapon. But then two, you you have a burden, a responsibility at that point, as if you're the only gun carrier in the room. Like, everyone in this room is now my responsibility if something was to happen. And if you're not training to be responsible for everyone in this room, or if nothing else, just your wife or your children, what are you doing? You know, if you're a man, it's our job to protect those that we care about. And if you're not steadily pushing that line and getting better so that you can make sure that they're taken care of, in my opinion, I feel like I'm failing if I'm not.
Well, I mean, you bring it back to the biblical layout for the household. The man is called to be head of the household, just as Christ was for the church. Well, what did Christ do for the church?
Died for the church.
Not only died for the church. You know, I think it's a lot easier for us to say, hey, I'll die for my wife. Absolutely. My wife loves me. She kisses me. She makes me food. She washes my laundry. You know, whatever it happens to be. It's super easy to love your wife. The world hated Christ, and he still died for it. And that's the mindset that we, especially as first responders, like, hey, dude, we're a cop. People hate us.
People hate us.
Are you still willing to die for the person who just spit in your face as you are for the next guy? And that's the difference in the mindset, especially when you put the spiritual emphasis on it. That's where we're called to be. And if you're doing anything short of that, you're failing. You know, if you're the king of the household, well, what does a good king do?
Protects his people.
He provides and protects for his family. If you're the priest of your household, what does a good priest do?
Lead.
He leads the family. He watches out for the spiritual welfare of his family. Are we doing the same? And, you know, we're talking firearms, tactics, medical, all that stuff. All that training is important too. Are you training spiritually? Are you spending time devoted to studying the Word? Not reading the Bible. Reading the Bible is good, but are you studying the Word? Are you hitting your knees? Are you spending deliberate time in prayer on behalf of your family, on behalf of your community, on behalf of the people you work with? These are the ways that we train ourselves up to be the spiritual king, the spiritual priest, the head of our household. And again, if you're doing anything short of that, you're not living up to the standard that you've been called to.
And so, kind of following up and finishing up with the Black Cypress Training Group, we've got 2 follow-up questions.
All right.
And it is, first, what is some drills, exercises, or training that people can do at home that actually cost them nothing, or things that they could be working on to get better? It costs nothing. There's no expense to them other than their time.
Dry fire. Dry fire. Dry fire. Dry fire. You want to know how to work a white light? Dry fire. You want to know how to work a pistol? Dry fire. Work a carbine? Guess what? Dry fire. So I'll shoot you a link over
For sure.
to put in the show notes. Company I also work for, Effective Fitness Training. We've got an article, like a little web blog on the importance of dry fire, consistent dry fire. That's the key word there, consistent dry fire. And then in that article, there's a link to download 5 dry fire drills. Put a little bit of movement to it. Just get people ready. The guy who runs kind of a sister company, Effective Fitness Shooting, Andrew Keith, dude is a rock star, grandmaster, black belt in jiu-jitsu. The dude's a stud. But he heads up our Effective Fitness Shooting. Check him out on Instagram. But he and I kind of partnered up. He ran all the drills, worked together on the blog to kind of put something out there where, hey, this is the blueprint. These are some ways to get started. Go make it happen.
Man, I'll tell you, my favorite way to practice dry fire, and my wife,
Don't shoot the TV.
my wife hates it. Unload, make safe, and I will go from either my concealed carry holster, and I'll be sitting on the couch, and you got a bad guy. There's always a bad guy in the movie, and it's a draw and a dry fire, present and dry fire at the TV.
So that's all well and good until he's not dry fire anymore.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, full fire safety rules. Number 1 is know the condition of your weapon at all times. Know the condition of your weapon at all times. And I've told you this on the range, right? a click on a hot range should be just as embarrassing as a boom on a cold range, right? So no condition with number 2. Don't point your gun at anything you're not willing to
Destroy.
or kill. Or the last one, and this one is what gets most people, or pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? Are you willing to pay for a new TV every time you do that? So, word of advice, you get a dry fire trainer.
Mantis, I heard, was a really good company. Have you ever?
Well, I'm talking CERT pistols. They can't shoot real guns or real bullets. You can point those at the TV, you'll be fine. But Mantis is a great tool. CERT has a couple programs that go with their pistols. SIRT, CERT pistols. The original dry fire mag. I use that frequently. There's a bunch of great tools out there, guys. Bottom line, the grip is probably as important. Well, the grip's more important than what this does. You build a proper grip, you can do whatever you want with this. You look at JJ Racaza, that dude is a trigger slapping fool. But his grip is so good that he's still, a 7 or 11 million time world champion. Like, this is way less important than what you do with building the grip and how your eyes track what's going on.
So, now I gotta know.
On dry fires, TXC holsters, sorry, buddy of mine, TXC holsters just released another YouTube video, Drills with Will, TXC holsters YouTube channel. And it walks you through building a dry fire routine, how to dry fire program.
Yeah, send me that link for sure. I'll throw that in there under Jack's recommendations.
Yeah, you'll have to remind me all these things I'm supposed to say.
Yeah.
So the final question I have is, when can we expect books to open up for 2025? As well as, you're kind of busy doing your transition things right now. You're taking, private contact if they either want some private lessons.
Yeah, so reach out to me or Rob or DJ, but reach out to me. Books are open. The nice thing about privates is we do it on your schedule. If you want to meet on a weeknight, we can meet on a weeknight. If you want to meet on a weekend morning, hey guys, let's time out July and August, probably most of September on Saturday afternoons. We did it, right?
Yeah.
How many times? Yeah,
But the difference that we were doing it was you got to be effective in that environment.
Absolutely.
For us, it's bad guy doesn't care that it's 110 degrees outside and you're wearing 30 extra pounds of shit.
He doesn't, but if I don't have to, I'm not going to. Still good to train every now and then, but man, taking a 4 or 8 hour block on a Saturday in July or August it's brutal. I've been 3 firearms instructor schools with my last department. They're all in August on a concrete range in West Texas. Man, it's brutal. And so, if we don't have to do that, we're not going to.
Why take cold showers when you don't have to?
Exactly. But the cool thing about these privates, if you're just interested in a private session on dry fire, cool, hook me up. We'll go meet somewhere in the air conditioning.
Hell yeah.
And we'll dry fire in the air conditioner, and then we can reconvene at a later date, give you a couple weeks to run through those dry fires, and then we'll reconvene out at the range. Now we're spending 2 hours inside, 2 hours on the range. And part of that is, it's uncomfortable to be out there. But at the same token, if you're paying me money to train you, and I lose you after 30 minutes because the sun is so blasted hot that you're not retaining information, you're wasting your time and your money by being out there trying to suffer through that. There's good things that can come from it. Last August I went through an oppressive 2-day course where we shot probably 1,000 rounds in 2 10-hour days. Hey dude, I was happy to be there. I just got my new gun. Dude, I was rock and roll. Hey, whatever, chalk my hand so I can hang on to this thing. Let's go. But at the same time, it's a very select group of students that can retain the knowledge built over that kind of environment. Most of our civilians, no offense guys, there's no need for y'all to be out there and that stuff.
No.
And so if we can make it where you retain the knowledge a little bit better, make it more worth their money.
Yeah.
I'm all about it because I'm a cop. I'm a cheapskate just like the rest of us. if there's a way I can make my money go further,
Yep.
it's by making sure that I'm actually getting what I'm paying for.
For
Do so much with so little for so long, I can almost do everything with nothing.
Oh yeah. Do more with less and be more thankful for it.
For sure. For sure. Well, changing pace here.
Yep.
And I really enjoy the topics that we've been discussing. But you've recently stepped into a ministry role. And you run a Bible study here at the lounge. We meet up bi-weekly when we can, but we dedicate at least one day a month for sure. And you came up with the name for it, and it's called Sticks and Stones.
Yeah.
So I'd like for you to kind of describe how you came up with that name and what the premise was.
So, outside of the Lord just laying it on my heart to kind of go out and reach more people, a great sticker right there. You can swing by the shop and grab a sticker there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll put a picture of them up.
If Harrison charges you for them, that's on him, but
I do not.
they're free. But no, just hey, where can we get dudes together to have real conversations? Harrison built this amazing lounge here in the air conditioning. I'm going to reiterate that with a fine selection of cigars. And
Texas
I said, man, especially some of the cops or responders who can't get to church on a Sunday, but who do smoke a cigar, is this a place where we can get together? We can have a time of fellowship. We can burn some sticks. So we burn sticks and we build upon this cornerstone of our faith. So Sticks and Stones was kind of born. One of the guys who I've had in a couple private classes, his wife does an Etsy shop, makes t-shirts, stickers, all manner of things. I said, hey, looking to start a new ministry. You think you could run us some stickers? So we went back and forth on a couple of designs, landed on what we made. And I said, all right, send me the total and I'll cut you a check. And she goes, man, Holy Spirit got a hold of me this morning. This is a ministry kickoff. They're yours. You know, this is my contribution to starting that. So y'all check her out at Wits End on Instagram, Etsy, at Wits End. She's awesome. Out of the Longview area, East Texas area. She does great stuff. Completely customizes things for you. Have you seen the Chupa Cobbler shirts? Mm-hmm. She made the Chupa Cobbler shirts for us. The one I was wearing yesterday, she made. So she does great stuff, guys. Go look her up, give her some business, throw some money at her.
Eye-catching stickers. I had a guy come in yesterday and ask about it because he saw them on the counter and it's like, "I'll do a Bible study in here." I said, "Yeah, man, come
Absolutely.
check it out."
Absolutely cool sticker. I love it.
Yeah. So we went. I think that was the second or third design she sent me. So hey, can we change this or this? And she sent me that. I said, yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what we're after.
Oh,
so.
Did you check out Left Hand Cigars' new stickers? That's their new artwork for.
Nice.
So they went from that one stick, like a true left hand, it's kind of holding a cigar similar to this. But they moved to that one. It was like a spin-off of the old school LA.
Yeah.
But they swapped it over. It's really cool.
I like it.
So, how did you get into ministry?
So, I like to say I'm slowly surrendering to the ministry, as it were. At my last church, our old senior pastor, the first thing I really got into serve, been a part of that Monday night group. We do some things here and there, but the pastor came to me and said, hey, the church is looking to start a workout ministry. I said, the church is? He goes, yeah, the church is. And me and my buddy Scott says, you guys are going to do it. All right. So started serving there. Basically, I'll run the programming. Scott leads the workouts, the devotionals, anywhere from, one or two guys some mornings to, I think they've had 8 or 10 there some mornings. So a great chance that they get more people if it wasn't at 5 o'clock in the dang morning, but that's their deal. But they go down there, they work out hard, cuss their coach from time to time, but then they always leave on a note of fellowship. So, hey, I'm involved. This last class I went to, and he kind of set a good standard, and I love it. It's a 2-day class, so that after day one, everybody goes out to eat together, and he gets can get you. Right? Like, hey, you're not leaving. We're having a conversation. Because you came for the shooting, but I'm going to make you leave. I want you to leave better than that. He and I hit it off. You know, we'd been talking for a couple months before I got into that class. And he knew I had a long drive ahead of me that night, and he calls me up and says, "Hey, man, you ever thought about ministry?" I said, "Yeah, man, I mess around with 2 or 3 different ministries. We do." He goes, "No. Have you ever thought about ministry?" I said, "Dude, not this guy. No way. Like 6'6", tatted up goon out there. Like, no." He goes, "Okay, well, you should." Funny. Okay. So we keep talking. I make it home. A couple weeks later, having some more professional disagreements on a personal level with my boss, and just kind of dissatisfied there. In one of the ministries I work with, Enter the Line, online law enforcement or first responder ministry. He calls me up. He says, "Man, Dad, I don't know, man. It's just been on our hearts. We want you to do more with the ministry. I don't know what that looks like." I said, "I don't either." But some opportunities opened up and started to look, okay. Enter the Line's great ministry. Enjoy working with them. Josh, one of the co-founders, heart of gold, really has a passion for it. So started to be able to do more stuff there. Then I happened upon one of my landowners out on Cattle Lake one night. You know, I was honestly trying to go catch a snack and listen to some duck roosting out there tailing the duck season. And he was there. Like, I never run into him out there, but he was there. And we just got to talking, and he goes, "Yeah, we don't have a pastor at our church right now. We're looking for supply pastors." He goes, "Would you want to come speak?" I'm like, and these things just keep happening. So, as it so happened, tongue in cheek like Ruth and Boaz, as it so happened, I said, "You know what? I'm going to start learning more, figuring out what this whole thing's about." Moody Bible Institute put out a 1-volume seminary. I said, "All right, Mardell's in Longview has it." And before that, I left that morning just doing some Bible study, and I find a book by Stephen Lawson called To Preach. Oh, that'd be a great book to pick up whenever I get a chance. So go to Longview, run my errands, and as I go to grab the 1-volume seminary on this shelf, Call to Preach is right there. Okay, so I get them both, and as I'm reading through chapter 1 of Call to Preach, it's basically, this is what the effectual call is. And I just kept checking the boxes.
Checks all the boxes,
Man. Well, I spent enough of my life running from where the Lord's calling me that I figured, you know what, let's kind of follow along and see where He leads. And I had the opportunity to preach a couple times, about once a month. Luckily enough, I get to serve our youth at our church. Started doing children's church. We started having enough kids to do children's church.
That's awesome.
Wednesday night youth, and I'll have August. I'll be preaching 2 Sundays in a row, and then 2 Wednesday nights. So it's amazing the way the Lord has opened these opportunities, and honestly putting the onus on me to really study the Word and be faithful to preach His Word as He's given it to us. Something I've really enjoyed leaning into and seeing what He's revealing in how life is happening.
So you also ran a retreat once that I was very, very upset that I didn't get to be part of. I was working then, but that retreat out there at the lodge.
Yeah. That is through Enter the Line.
That's right.
They have, I think this year we're at 6 or 8 retreats that we're working on hosting. I think we're 4 or 5 into it now. Get some smoke rolling back. So we have Abide retreats up in Tennessee. I think most of the Abide retreats are in Tennessee. Just a spot for dudes to go out in the woods, cabin right by the river there. I think we're looking at another location as well, but just a chance to fellowship with each other without the distractions of what comes with life. and equipping men to go back better husbands, better servants, better fathers, things like that.
I think the coolest story you gave me from that weekend is it had a lot to do with a lot of workout, a lot of physical fitness.
Yep.
And your guys pulled the true enough David Goggins, threw a log on their shoulders and just roughed that thing out.
Yeah, so about the same time I started really getting more involved with the Green Iron ministry, the workout ministry. I started seeing Josh post about these retreats, and Scott and I called him in. I said, Scott, let's meet with Josh. Josh, hey, we want to do a faith and fitness retreat here in East Texas. I don't know what that means. I said, dude, I don't either. But I figured if we work out, we eat a lot, and we praise God, good things will happen. And he said, hey man, enter line, any way we can help you. So the first one was basically a 3-day weekend. So come in, one day of working out, big culminating event, go home the next day. This year we learned, came in on Thursday, workout, fellowship Friday, had lessons throughout. Saturday, workout, fellowship, and then we have what's called our culminating event. And not to give too much away from it, but it's a culminating event. And then after our culminating event, and there's a lot of symbolism, a lot of imagery that goes into it. But after that, our ministry down in Marshall, they come up and they cook us a good Texas supper. I think year one was brisket, mac and cheese, sausage. That's what we did this year.
You also had tacos too.
Yeah, we had tacos one night, hamburgers, pancakes. I mean, you name it, we ate it that weekend. We had a dude from California. He came out. Danny's a great guy, really leaned into it. But the dude from California sitting there amongst our cook crew, and they're all talking about life and God, and Danny's just like, these people exist. Because you can imagine, an East Texas Baptist cook crew, and Danny was right in there amongst them. But just awesome to see the way the Lord works and reaches people that, hey, I didn't want to come, but He made me. And one of those guys who almost turned around and didn't come. One of the guys who helped lead, he actually kind of kidnapped him. He wouldn't let him bring his own vehicle. But now, just to see the growth in his personal life, growth in his professional life, following this, knowing that there's a community of believers out there who are, hey, we're all in, we're sold out. Physically, we need to be in better shape. Emotionally, we need to be in better shape. Spiritually, we absolutely need to be in better shape. And that can be, dude, you name it, everybody has room for improvement. And so, finding, our lodge sits on 3,000 acres. We got a pond out there, big pond. Hiking trails, we brought kettlebells, dumbbells, sandbags. I mean, we grinded it out. We sweat, we prayed, we learned, we worshiped. It was, for a bunch of dudes with tattoos and who tote guns for a living, it was kind of one of those welcoming experiences. So it's going to be an annual event now.
Hell yeah.
Enter the Line is partnering with the Remnant Ministries, and this is going to kind of be an annual event for us. But the Kingdom Warriors Retreat.
Kingdom Warriors Retreat.
Yep. So
of course, I'm going to roll back through here, and I'm going to gather everything that you recommended, and I'm going to text you, and you're going to send me the link so I can put it in the description. I love hearing about that, man. In my own personal development, just one day I woke up and I was, you know how the gig goes, especially being a night shift cop. There's nothing to eat worth eating except gas station food, and you're drinking terrible energy drinks, and you're not taking care of your body, and you're tired all the time. And I slipped, and then just within the last 6-8 months, I came up to a revelation, and it was like, I'm called to be of service, but I'm failing because I'm not physically capable. And so I had just this new rededication to, I've got to, the idea of, formed in God's image, but this is not what God intended for me. Gluttony is of the devil, and I have decided that I was going to continue to live that life until one day I just looked up and said, I'm not happy with myself. And so I truly love the idea that your ministry at that point. It's about men being the best that they can be in both mental, physical, and spiritual selves. And so it's an awesome experience that I want to be a part of if I can just get the time off.
So heads up to everybody who tunes in to listen to this. Anyone, first responder, current, retired, former, anything like that, we are hosting a father-son dove hunt in West Texas through Enter the Lion. The Remnant Ministries is kind of helping coordinate that. So father-son dove hunt, West Texas. Come on out this September. I think it's going to be the 19th through the 21st.
Heck yeah. Here, so throw me that mini pin.
There is a tuition to this. Every other retreat, tuition's guaranteed, paid for. We have tons of generous sponsors and donors. We may have a chunk of this covered, but we're just going to throw it out there that there is a tuition base.
Yeah.
Hey, got to make sure that we're getting the people.
Who did you say it was through, just in case somebody wants to kind of donate and help sponsor something?
Enter the Lion, and you can find their donation page on enterthelion.co. Enterthelion.co. They have donation pages there. You can tag your donation for a specific thing.
For sure.
But an absolutely great ministry opportunity. We're going to go out. We're going to hopefully shoot a bunch of birds in the face. But at the end of the day, we're going to dive into the Word of God. And we want fathers and sons collectively to come. If you're a first responder and you have a son, if you're a first responder and you got a father, dude, everybody's welcome. We'll make sure you can get in contact with me. We'll get that registration form signed out to you guys. We don't want to open it globally yet, but when you hear the price for a West Texas dove hunt, it's pretty stupid cheap to begin with, and then, like I said, hopefully, most of
a lot of fun. When my brother got married, his bachelor party, we did a West Texas dove hunt.
Yep.
Just absolutely had a blast.
Yep.
And the guys down there were just one of a kind. So it's going to be, I'm sure that's going to be an absolute amazing experience. Especially
our guy from the Remnant, he's going to be our guide. He's hunted out this place for at least a dozen years, I feel like, and he'll put us on the fields. The landowner is super gracious. If you're familiar with where Albany, Texas is, it's right in that neck of the woods. So y'all know when the birds are flying, your shoulder's going to be sore. But looking forward to it. It'll be morning hunt, lunch and lessons, afternoon hunt, evening lessons with supper. We'll structure it all around, personal and spiritual growth, who you are as a father, who you are as a son, who you are as a servant. But really looking forward to that.
And I appreciate it, and we kind of want to wrap this up. The way I structured this was we would discuss the final notes.
And then I got
cigar.
here.
Yeah. So you know as well as I do. If you want God to laugh, tell him you got plans.
That's it.
Yeah. So
Both of our kids are living proof of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to ask a few kind of wrap up questions and a few questions that I had and maybe some that Harrison had. Do you have any stories or some lessons learned of your time in the warden service that really kind of altered or changed the way you viewed either the service or your act of service to people?
Well, one of the biggest lessons I learned was if you're running full sprint under nods, watch where you're going. So I did run off of about a 14-foot embankment under nods one night. Yeah, super fun story. But bottom line, I landed on a cactus. But the sand underneath was super soft, so I was relatively unscathed.
I was going to ask, some stories from down there at the border. I know some secret squirrel shit going on down there, not so much that you're supposed to talk about, but I do know one story that you told me briefly. And it was the time down in South Texas that there was a group of individuals that were illegally in the country who were all running in a big group down this dirt road. And here you are, who have been watching them for a few hours, just falling right behind them. And snatching the straggler down in each group and throwing them down for the guys behind you.
So we can't get into too much of that story. but at the end of the day, yeah, we've been watching this group. We've actually been working this group for a solid week. We're out in the middle of nowhere, and Buddy and I, or my teammate and I, good friend, but working as a team that night, and we slide down there, and we're set up in place, and this group walks within 3 feet of where we're stowed up, and they just keep walking. Like, how many people are in this group? And I think final count was about 70, 75. And he's on one side of the bush, I'm on the other side, and he sees the last person cross, he comes, he last mans me, and they take off running down the road. We think they're going across the road and up over into the hills, and they're running down the road, so, man, we hold our holsters so we're not clanking, and we just start running with them. We're looking at each other while we're running. And finally, the dude in the back of the line is kind of, and he sees us, so we snatch him down, and I catch up, and now I'm another 50 yards down behind the group, and then our teammates from the front, they start hitting them from the front side, and you hear screams, and people are hitting the bush and the water, and I think we ended up catching 11 out of the 75, but that whole week and that whole night is about, so from where we really started working that group hard was probably 12 plus hours, and testament to the dudes on our team for the agency that let those guys work and operate the way we did that night. But I don't think hardly any other team would have been able to accomplish what we did that night. Just all the things that went into it, the left turns, the right turns, the runs, everything that happened, happened because those dudes were locked in and dedicated to the mission. And so, but yeah, that was a wild night. We finally got picked up about 4 o'clock in the morning for a 2.5 hour ride back to where our camp house was. And man, I don't think we lasted 15 minutes in the truck before we were all, I think I had a kolache one of the dudes brought me, and one bite out of it. But yeah, I mean, the border's fun. A lot of wild stories down there. I guess one of the ones that was the boy getting shot.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you spoke about the WMA and the incident. That would have been about 2 or 3 years. No,
I think it's 2020, 2019, 2020. But learned a lot. It was a day off for me.
As it always starts.
But the phone call came, hey dude, we're gonna go hook up a bunch of sex offenders. You want to come tonight? I'm like, yeah. So I grab my plate carrier, my rifle, and I walk out the door. That's it, like plate carrier, rifle, uniform, and we're hooking. And we knocked down, I think we were 2 or 3 offenders in. They're on their way to the jail, and dispatch comes over and they call me and my partner by radio number together, and we're like,
oh no.
He's like, you call one game warden on the radio, that's one thing, but when you call them both out, something, hey, juvenile male shot in the chest on the WMA, need units responding. Crap. And of course now I'm thinking, all I have is my rifle, my plate carrier, and I look at my partner and say, hey dude, you got what we need? We'll hook it. And so we finally figure out kind of where they are. We got a bus in tow behind us. I think 2 or 3 deputies and a constable. No, he was deputy at the time.
So we call ambulances buses, just a colloquial term that we have.
So we ride around. We call a landowner. He says, "Hey, cut my gate to get in there."
Yeah.
So we cut the gate. We drive through, and the closest we can get to this boy by truck is about 250 yards, something like that. 25 yards later, we're in the water. And so I run up and down real quick. We try and find a dry, nope. So we take off. It's knee deep water. This is 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It's dark out. And we're just trucking along. And we think that the ambulance crew is in tow behind us because they had the backboard and their med bag and everything else. So Rob and I we're going to go get eyes on this boy, see how bad it is. And we split this button wheel out there. And I hear this. Rob goes, ooh. I say, ooh, snake, big one? Oh yeah. a big old cottonmouth hit the water between us and disappeared into the night. Like, the Lord was looking out for us for sure. So we get there, we slap a chest seal on this boy. He's actually doing pretty good. And we look around. Where'd everybody go? I'm like, man, that's a long way to carry this kid out on our shoulders. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Alicia comes up, toting a backboard, cussing a storm. And we're like, where's the box? And the cussing ensued because the ambulance crew said, oh, we're not getting in the water. We're like, well, hang on, time out. Like, this is literally your job is to save people's lives, and you're not going to do it.
Testament to Alicia, who's every bit of 5 foot tall.
She's a pit bull boy.
Oh, yeah.
And so she snatched the backboard out of their hands, basically had to fight them off, and she followed us out there. We sacked him up on that board, strapped him down, and toted him out. And then, testament to Christus EMS Airbus, they landed that helicopter in a spot.
Dude, I've seen that area. That was what, maybe 100 foot by, or maybe a little longer than 100. But it was little.
It was just enough for a helicopter to go straight down and straight up. No wiggle left or right. I mean, they dropped that bird straight down. We loaded that boy up. Talked to him. I think he's married now.
Hey, that's awesome.
He has a little pendant with that bullet. So I felt his back looking for an exit wound. A bullet's under his skin, so he carries that bullet on a necklace.
Hell yeah.
So,
you know, once again, gun safety, man.
Yeah, but I mean, more than that, just teaching us this is why we're here. You know, everybody wants to kick a door, but where it really matters is often not in those moments. You know, that's our Super Bowl, and we hope we get the opportunity. You know, it's anyone driven to perform in this field, you want that opportunity to prove yourself in that environment. But where it matters, it is when you can actually reach somebody. And the hours of, man, when I first started effective fitness training, I was cursing how often we were doing farmer's carries and suitcase carries. I'm like, why on earth? And then I carried this boy out on a backboard for 200 yards through knee-deep water. I'm going, this is why. This is why we train the way we do, is to make things like this possible.
Dude, I get it. When we dragged old boy out from down there off of Old Highway 59 in the bag.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that was one of those key defining moments for me when dude was not a little guy. And there was 4, maybe 5 of us out in the woods, and my captain, our investigator, he was doing good just to get the 200-300 yards from the very end of the old highway back into the woods where the guy was at. And so, you know, just trying to manhandle it down a tiny little deer trail, 5 or 6 guys up and over logs and under, and it's like, oh my God. I had the greatest pump in my shoulders and back.
Oh yeah.
And the next day I was just as sore as could be. And it's one of those, I was just glad to be a part of it. Just to like, there's just something about this job in those situations that when it's all said and done, or when you're in it, you're not thinking about it. You're just like, this is the job.
But it's that bond that's forged in the adversity.
Sure, and especially when it's a win.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you know,
hey, that was a win too. Even though he was dead, he deserved to be dead.
Well, yeah,
you can say that. But
well, I mean, when you look at his trophy bag, for sure. Long story short, dude, sad enough, he took his own life, but you know, he was a convicted sex offender, or he was soon to be arrested for being a sex offender, and instead of facing his day in court and taking the punishment that was dealt him by the good people of Marion County, he decided he was going to take his own life. And as sad as that is, I'm sorry that he did. You know, it was what it was, but we had to go get him.
Yeah. But the biggest win and testament to the power of faith was this past week.
This is past Wednesday. Did I tell you about like how I got involved in that?
Well, it's right down the road from your house.
So I didn't not even that. So I got up that morning, like just something snapped me out of bed at 6:30. So like I get up, I eat breakfast. I was like, hey, it's a great time. I've got nothing to do today. We have a normal Wednesday activity where we sit up here and we smoke like 6-7 cigars and just hang out. It's like, well, I'm gonna go hit the gym, run home. We normally meet up around noon. So I'm gonna hit the gym, spend an hour, 2 hours in the gym, get some cardio in, go home, eat, and come right back up here and I'll
We
spend
got
the
some
day.
cardio in.
And so I get home at 10 o'clock. 10:15, I'm stepping out of the shower, and Constable Ed Baird calls me. He goes, "Hey man, where are you? What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm at the house. What's up?" He goes, "You're not helping?" Like, helping with what? You know, Ed. Like, all the information you didn't want and none of the information you need. And he goes, "Yeah, there's a missing girl right behind your house." I was like, "Well, shit." So I'm throwing everything on, and I get up there at about 10:15. So I wasn't aware of how it all shook down, other than, hey, there's a missing girl. So I grabbed my dog, Kilo, he's trained as a track and search and rescue. I didn't want to put him on bite, but he's also a damn good dope dog. But I didn't bring him out because I was told Jake was coming.
Yep.
And of course, I didn't want to fool anything up with that.
Shout out to K9 Jake, he's a stud.
Oh yeah, it's a sweet dog too.
Yeah.
I love dogs. Love labs. German Shepherds are better, but I love labs too. But no, Jake, if you want to talk about it, because obviously, you getting the call out first, I was just a secondary call in.
So we didn't have any leftovers that night, which is unusual for us. So I was hungry. I texted my wife and said, "Have them come over, grab a snack from her office." And so we worked 200 yards from each other, so I was going to walk over there. As I'm walking past my truck, I hear a call on the radio. 502, 503, 504, everybody
When
en
there's
route.
more than 2 deputies called at any time, everybody stops.
En route to this location, we have a missing 3-year-old. And been doing this game long enough that, hey, time is of the essence. So I turn right around, hop in the truck, we go down there, and we start beating brush, get the K9 en route. It's ended up being a 6-hour ordeal.
5:30, 6 o'clock when it went over.
Yeah, so it came out just somewhere between 10 and 11. She was found about 6:30, but all the things that look like this is going in the wrong direction came to fruition. But man, people were praying, people were working their butts off. We had a huge response, so much so that the area that was the initial CP, we had to move to town. And in fact, towards the end of it, my wife texted me, or she called me. She says, "Hey, do I need to pick anything up for you to cook for the youth group tonight?" I go, "Oh, it's Wednesday." I said, "Baby, I'm not going to be out of the woods before it's time for youth group, so don't worry about it. I'll call Brother John." I call my pastor, and he says, I can't do anything right now, but I'll take care of the kids tonight." And he hit his knees and started praying. Wasn't 15 minutes later that we get the call on the radio, "Hey, she's been found, alive and well," and we're going, dude. And you know as well as I do, she could have gone to a number of houses that were closer that may not have been what she needed to find.
For sure.
And the fact that she found this house, who's family to a lot of really good people in this area, right? We know. In fact, the colloquial name for that area is after their family name, but good people, that their back door happened to be unlocked that day, that all this, Lord was looking after that little girl, and it was a huge win for everybody involved to know, the hours she put in, what we were training, what we were trying to accomplish, and we got to go home, and the little girl got to go home that night to meet her new baby. Like, that was...
Dude, the mom, so they, of course, the girl was staying with grandma and grandpa, but mom had just given birth to their 4th girl Monday night at 10 p.m. And here's mom, left the hospital Wednesday and was there at noon and was attempting to help search. That was like, as much as I was trying to be the deputy of the king, it was wild to me that she was in that much, doing that much. She had done that much and was still on, but the wildest thing to me, what that little girl was wearing, she's wearing a pair of blue jean shorts and a pair of sandals. And I'm used to all that area. I hunt that area all the time. And there's some stuff in there that, like, if you're not wearing
fire britches.
Yeah, if you're not wearing ripstop pants and some good boots and a good long sleeve shirt, you're getting ate up. I mean, I was ate up.
Yeah, I still am.
And that little girl made it that far. she had lost her shoes and her shorts.
Yeah.
And just the absolute sheer will or the determination of that little girl, because I know grown adults right now in the same situation, shoeless and pantsless, that would have given up and just fell into the despair of, I'm never getting out, I'm going to die right here.
Yeah.
And a 3-year-old girl, and
Lord's looking after her, man.
yeah, my gosh. So I marked it from the distance from where she originally went missing to the house. And as the crow flies, it was like 3,250
I went that far.
foot. Yeah,
Oh, feet.
yeah. And it was as the crow flies. But that trail, I don't remember, it was what, shy of a mile?
Yeah, I mean, we put in 3.5 miles that day.
Yeah. And I mean, I know I put in 2 or 3, but when we were following that trail, there's a slight little Y off into where they just planted the pine thicket over on the Price Hunting Club's land. I was like, I mean, if I'm lost in the woods and thinking of where I'm going, I'm finding the quickest way out, the most light. And I don't know how or what trail she took. But God, there had to have been at least 20 or 30 troopers. I mean, Texas DPS showed up and showed out. Game wardens,
Yeah, we had all the volunteer firefighters, local PD, the county, highway patrol, Parks and Wildlife Department. Highway patrol bought their helicopter. Two K9s from Parks and Wildlife.
Two canines that were private search and rescue.
Yeah, one was fire,
Yeah.
private search, but the way the community showed up in short order.
That's what I love about this community, man.
That's what it's all about. And it's those relationships, right?
For sure. Because I knew every person that wasn't law enforcement. Like I knew most of the law enforcement guys as well, but a lot of troopers I hadn't met, a lot of game wardens I hadn't met. But every community member from this area that showed up, I knew them.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, where do we need to go? And I was like, CP's this way. The sheriff, the DA was there. The chief of the Jefferson Police Department was there. We had all of the chaplains. Father Heim was out at the time, but all of the chaplains were there. Their wives, they were setting it up, getting ready. It was truly a team effort, and to walk away that day with a win. My wife called me, DJ, the DA's investigator, called me and said, hey, I want you to run down to your house and check your security cameras and see if you see any vehicles coming and going at this time, because there was a possibility that maybe a car picked her up. So I'm at the house, and I don't know, we had been out there from 10, and it's like 3, and it was hot. And I had forgot to grab my water bottles and throw them in my bag. So I'm running low, getting hot. And so I'm sitting in the bathroom, I sling the shower on the cold and lay down in the bathtub fully clothed. Just like, gotta cool down somehow. The wife calls me and I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm fixing to jump right back out there. She goes, hey, I'm leaving work right now. I'm gonna come help. I said, okay. Just as soon as I hang up on her, the radio snaps on, goes, hey, we think we found her. She's at this location. My wife is pissed because I left an entire pile of soaking wet, nasty clothes as I'm stripping out trying to get to the Jeep, put on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and was gone.
Yeah.
The amount of law enforcement that was on scene makes me proud to be a part of the law enforcement community in this area.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the amount of community that was here that dropped what they were doing. This is a Wednesday at lunchtime. This is middle of the work week.
Yeah.
And people are like, hey boss, gotta go. Like, volunteer firemen, I don't think they get enough respect because these guys are working a full-time job. And then leaving, they're no longer making money when they leave off the clock.
Oh yeah.
But they're also spending money to be there. So it was a win.
Big win.
Big win. It's one of those things that you mark that down in the column, that's what keeps pushing you on.
Absolutely.
And so after those stories, I'm going to ask you this. Is there any advice that you would give to anyone in public service, law enforcement, fire, EMS, to kind of keep them motivated and pushing them on?
Know your why. And it's an oft repeated cliche, but know your why. You know, when you know you're called, know who's calling, and know what you're called to serve and do. Lord's laid it on your heart to be in this line of work, whether volunteer or not. But when you understand who it is that's calling and just what you're called to be doing in that, that's what it takes. I had somebody a number of years ago say, Jack, how do you find the motivation to stay in shape? And the answer I gave it at the time, decent answer, but someone, somewhere, at some point in your career, their life or your life is going to depend solely on your physical fitness. Not how well you can shoot, not how smart you are, but your physical fitness. And it's come true more times than not, but at the end of the day, knowing above that, I'm called to this position. And if I'm serving a risen Savior, what right do I have to think of myself before anything else? So sacrifice the time of the gym. Sacrifice. Oh, that's my phone going.
No, I heard a bang out here.
But sacrifice what it is that makes you think that you're more important than any of those people that are going on out there.
Jack, we really appreciate you coming in today. You're a really good friend of Harrison and I. And it's awesome to get your experience and your mindset and for you to dedicate your time. I know you're busy, you're handling things with the school and handling things with your ministry. And
yeah, I know, like chief here.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, like, hey, no. I'm just a nobody.
Chief Pearl. But then, again, the resources that you've offered to this area, the resources that you've offered to me personally, and your commitment to hanging out here with Harrison and using his lounge and smoking sticks in his place, it really speaks a testament to who you are and how much you devote your time and your energy to the community that you live in. And that's why Harrison and I agreed we wanted you on here, is that you truly embody the feeling of being dedicated to the community that you serve. And so we wanted to say thank you for coming out.
I appreciate the sentiment, man. I'm just a wretched nobody who's been given a lot of really great opportunities. So thank you guys for doing this podcast or video podcast, whatever it is. Thank you guys for doing it, highlighting people that are going to make the world a little better. Harrison, thank you for our little home here where we can enjoy it. Did I mention smoking cigars in the air conditioning? It's a big deal, right? Oh, yeah. So, man, this place is awesome. If y'all haven't come, please come check this out. Buy some sticks, spend some time.
Join us for the Sticks and Stones Bible study.
Yeah, Sticks and Stones Bible study, 25 July at 7 p.m. 7 p.m.
We'll be here.
Yep.
Well, folks, we appreciate y'all tuning in, and our next interview, hopefully we'll get Rob to come in and interview with us. We're going to brief him and see what he's willing to get done. So, thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time.
See you.
Hey, Justin, what are you listening to?